Welcome back to another episode of the Muster Room Podcast. We are here as part of the 9/11 series at the Flight 93 National Memorial here in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Huge shout out to the National Park Service for allowing us to be here today. They've been a phenomenal host. This is now episode 3 that we've done here. We have at least 1 or 2 more, and then we're doing a live TikTok later tonight. Those of you that are going to be watching, this will obviously be post the TikTok, but you'll be able to watch that as well, where we'll be doing a live TikTok here at 6 p.m. on the grounds of the Flight 93 Memorial.
It's been an amazing couple days.
Yeah,
it really has.
So many people I know are never going to be able to get here.
Yeah.
So doing these episodes here and being able to do this live TikTok, it's really going to show people what this memorial is all about, and it's absolutely stunning. It's
impressive.
Very impressive.
It's impressive, and it's impressive in its simplicity. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just. I mean, you can follow the flight path and you can go out there, but it's the memorial is a boulder.
Right.
I mean, basically, you have the wall of names and stuff, but when you look at the site, it's a boulder, and it's moving, and it's striking because of its simplicity.
It is, and prior to coming here, I never knew really what this memorial and museum had to offer until we got here. So it's just been great. And again, shout out to the National Park Service for allowing us to do this. So with that being said, let's jump into this next episode.
Yeah.
We are here today with one of the first paramedics on scene, the first ambulance on scene to the Flight 93 crash. Now, Kevin, I'll let you introduce yourself. I don't want to screw up your last name. So please feel free to let us all know who you are and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am Kevin Huzsek. I was a paramedic in 2001. I was in the first ambulance. Our substation was in Stoy Town, which is about 2 miles down the road. At that time, we had a broken ambulance. So that morning, our boss actually called us, and she had said that, "Do you see what's going on in New York?" So we turned on the television. We actually saw the one tower that was on fire. And then shortly after, we actually saw the second plane hit, which we were all in disbelief because we weren't sure of if anything was going to happen in our area. I know the bigger cities, are always targets, and it was like in the back of our mind, we basically said, no, it's not going to happen here. So at this time, we actually went to our main station in Somerset. We tried to fix our broken ambulance, which we had no siren, which was kind of comical because, we had lights, but we had no siren, and we did not get it fixed prior to our dispatch. But I'll go back here too. I was a paramedic since 1995, and I went, I think it was 2012 was whenever I stopped running ambulance full time. But I wanted to go into law enforcement, just due to the mere fact because I always wanted to do it. I thought that I would be good at it as I was a paramedic, and at least in my mind, I was a good paramedic. But things just stayed in public safety, and I continued with fire departments. All of Pennsylvania's fire departments around this area are all volunteer. Was a volunteer since I was 16, continued to go to EMT school, paramedic school, continue with the trend, worked at multiple fire departments and ambulance services, and then it just evolved and kind of got burned out. But went into law enforcement in 2011. I was 36 years old when I went through the academy, and I was with a bunch of young brutes. But I survived, and I was within the top 5 of my class physically, so it made me feel really good. The old man's kicking some butt, in the academy.
I know that because I have to kick these guys all the time. So.
Whatever works,
old
right?
Man.
You know what? You gotta stay young somehow. That's the way that I felt too. They drove me, to make myself better and made them look shameless, but But other than that, so we'll go back to the day. Whenever we went up to our main station, our boss, her name was Jill Miller, she told us, she said, stay a little vigilant. We don't know what's going on. And then while we were there, obviously, we saw that a plane crashed in the Pentagon. And we told her, we said, well, we're going to grab our stuff and we're going to go back to our station just in case. It was not even probably 25 minutes after we got back to the station. Our the tones from our dispatch center started dropping. And we're like, oh, crap, this is something big. And then, of course, the announcement came over with all the stations that were dispatched, and they said that it was a plane down in the Shanksville area. We have planes go down all the time, in Somerset, but they're small little planes, 2-seaters, little King Air Pipers, whatever. And they said it was a large aircraft. So at that point, we pretty much locked up our station and hopped in our broken ambulance. And like I said, we had no siren. So we turned on the lights, and Route 30, we went.
Are you thinking to yourself while you're doing this, like, there's no way this is connected to what's going on in New York and the Pentagon?
It is. We had no idea whatsoever. And we just thought that since things are going on, maybe it was related. But whenever they said large aircraft, we started changing our wheels up a little bit. And what we saw when we got closer to this area, we saw smoke. They didn't give a specific location of where the plane was down, so that's how we made our way to the scene. We followed the smoke. We came up Lambertsville Road, and I want to say maybe 2 miles in, there's a road called Skyline Drive. We knew Skyline Drive actually went to a recycling center, and we went up this road. Smoke was still in the area that we were following, and we came up by the recycling center, but it turned off, and we saw Shanksville Fire Department, their first engine, coming up. I mean, we were head-to-head on the road because they were following the smoke as well. We weren't sure of where it was, but then we started seeing a lot of vehicles back an entrance road where they actually backfilled on the mine. We saw coal trucks. We saw a lot of people down in this area, so we drove back that road. And, of course, when we got there, that's where this large crater was. I was in disbelief. At that moment, I didn't see a plane, but I saw a large tire from a commercial aircraft burning right around this crater. There was pieces of the fuselage windows, and there was a couple frames of the seat. That was it. It did not look like a plane crash. At the moment that we got back there, of course, we had ambulances coming from everywhere. Somerset County is a small county. We had resources coming from Cambria County, Fayette County, I think Westmoreland County.
When you pulled up, how many people were, when you yourself pulled up, how many people were on scene already, or none? Or?
There was bystanders only. There was no emergency personnel whatsoever. So we of course, told these people, get out of here. You know what? You need to start backing your vehicles because there's going to be emergency vehicles, coming out the wazoo here, and we need you out of here. And plus, they're in an area, a hot zone, where there's burning fuels, there's dangers to them, and we needed to protect them to get them out of there. They listened. I mean, and you could see on the looks of their faces, they were in just disbelief, because most of these people actually either A, saw the plane go down, that's why they went there. One coal truck driver, he was driving on Lambertsville Road. I think he was empty, going for another load of coal. And he said that, he saw the plane going down. We started putting the pieces together, and of course, more resources started to come. During that time, my boss, she came in, a second ambulance. I think we were equipped with 7 ambulances at that time. I think we had 5 of our ambulances there. But of course, our personnel, they had to call in, so they were a little delayed. We had air medevacs either on standby or they were actually launching, but they were denied because obviously all air traffic was shut down everywhere. And at that moment, I mean, we didn't see anybody that we could have rendered aid to. But for me, for my sake, I wanted to go down through the woods and just make sure. We saw papers burning. We found cash that was burning, blowing in the wind. Obviously, it was a sunny day, just like today. I mean, it was very, very bright. It was a a limited breeze, but it was obviously, there. Spot fires. We can smell the jet fuel burning. And
At what point, when you're doing this, at what point do you think there's nobody surviving this?
I think right whenever I looked overall at the crash scene, that there was no survivors. And I think that was heartfelt, because it was like I was called here to help people and there's nobody to help. Yeah. But we did go down through the crash site, down through the trees. There was even a cabin that was catching on fire. They actually had a structure fire there with that cabin because of the jet fuel. But one of the engines were actually laying down in the woods. And so we continued to search. And then, of course, once the state police got there, other services, we kind of regrouped. And we're like, okay, let's step back here and let's figure this out right now. Is it associated with New York and the Pentagon? We believe that it was because the state police got information that there was a tower in Cleveland, I believe, that they were trying to contact Flight 93, and they were unable to do so because obviously the plane was hijacked at that time, and that was the last transmission that they received until it actually flew over Somerset County. And there was other people that were coming forth with, especially from the recycling plant, because they obviously saw that the plane was inverted. And they knew it was going down because it was only probably 100, 200 feet off the ground until it crashed, and they witnessed that. The way that the crater looked, it looked like the wing drug up until the point that the plane actually dove into the ground from the cockpit down, because they were obviously, whenever they started removing things from the ground, it was 100 feet down or more. And but we continued to search down through, and the one thing that I can remember everything about that day, but we also found a Bible that was partially burnt, but it was more intact. And we started gathering these things, and I know we were probably tampering with evidence, but we were kind of lost of what to do. So we started gathering things, just so then the wind didn't blow them away. We kind of tried to preserve this, and we did turn everything over to the authorities, but we were finding personal things too that we kind of left lay, because I found a shoe. That was a shoe that I wasn't picking up because I was afraid what might have been in it, and I know that the clothing that was being burnt, there was biologicals in there. We knew that there was passengers. We didn't know how many until things started to actually come together, until the FBI got there, National Travel Safety Advisory Board got up here, all the resources from the federal government that actually got here and said, yes, this is related to New York and the Pentagon. We knew that there was nobody for us to help, but what we did was we helped gather resources, shelters, bathrooms, porta-johns, things like that, because we knew that this was going to be a long operation. So we started gathering up some resources to come in, which were going to be delayed until we actually made phone calls and things like that. And we wanted to make sure that there was enough medical supplies, personnel to handle. It was September, it was hot, and we knew that whoever was coming in to process this scene, we basically would have had, to make sure that they were fed, water, and had the resources, for sleep. Yeah. And it was going to continue, for days. I think I was there for the first 9 hours of my 24-hour shift. Surprisingly enough, I wasn't even supposed to be working that day. I traded with another paramedic that he needed the day off, and I just fell into it, I guess. Might
be a silly question, but are you glad that you were on that day and you were working?
I was, because I know that the other paramedic, would have did a good enough job too. But I believe that, everything happens for a reason.
Sure.
I was there, to serve a purpose. The purpose is not what I wanted to, provide to these people, because I was prepared, to treat hundreds of people. But obviously that wasn't the case.
When you first got on scene, you were the first responder on scene.
Yes.
Essentially, we all know how the FEMA command system works.
Yes.
You're the incident commander until somebody of higher authority gets on scene. So did you take control of the radio? Were you talking to your dispatch? What was that like?
Since we met up with the fire units, which was Shanksville Fire Department, they took over the fire command. For a very brief time, I was in charge of EMS command until my boss got there. Then she took over. So my command at that point was very limited, but I understand, she outranked me. So
did you put over, hey, I'm here, I have a confirmed plane down? Like, did you do any type of radio communication when you got on scene?
Radio communication was very difficult, just due to the mere fact because our 911 center was overwhelmed. We have not handled anything like this in a capacity such as large numbers. But I communicated enough to get the point across of which ambulances I had coming, how many ambulances, how many air evacs that I had coming. And it was very quick that we determined, that we didn't need these resources. Resources still came in, but we staged a lot of our fire units, EMS units at a relatively close location until we can confirm, because we certainly didn't need them in, because state police were dispatched way before we were, because they were looking at the Indian Lake area for this plane down. And they determined rather quickly, by information that they received, that this was a crime scene. So they didn't want it contaminated. Obviously, we all know how, the contamination with crime scenes, can be very difficult for anybody that's going to investigate this. But yeah, the communication was very difficult. And I think after 9/11, FEMA started to incorporate more incident command training. And I know that I had gone lengths, to get the what are they, 100, 200, 700, 900, it's a lot of training that you might use once in a lifetime, but it was purposeful. And communications were jammed, and New York, Pentagon, everybody knew that. Everybody was on their cell phones, and jammed. Now, I know AT&T has a system right now, it's called Safety Net. I actually have a work phone that will prevent that. So first responders will have access to communications a lot quicker than bystanders, just because of the communications, which is great, and that's an improvement in which I've seen improvements, since 9/11. I mean, it's been a lot of years, obviously, and I'm not even sure of the exact numbers of 24 years.
We're coming up on 24.
And there's just been those changes that were necessary to prevent anything from happening like that again. There was even changes in my ambulance service. After that, it was 2002. We had 9 miners that were trapped in a mine, inundated with water. So after those 2 big incidents that we endured in, I built a disaster trailer with significant amount of equipment, and we raised the money. I mean, it was probably over $100,000 that we raised for a truck, trailer, equipment, and the training that we needed. Mass casualty training was a big must at that time, and I still believe that the ambulance service in Somerset still has the disaster trailer that I built with some modifications, and I think that there might be some modifications coming, soon. It was a regular camper, You had your incident command, you can sleep in it, and you could carry the equipment and have bathroom facilities as well. So it was a multi-purpose trailer, but 24 years ago, that's when I built it, and I think it probably is time for an upgrade, definitely.
I want to touch upon it. So you said that you had arrived on scene, you were only here for a few hours, and then you had left, but you quickly realized that this is not a rescue mission. It's now a recovery effort.
Correct.
And you transitioned from rescue to rehab. You were talking about all the food coming in, the sleeping arrangements that need to be made. What was that like going through that process?
A lot of it was coming in. It was trickling in, I would say. It was coming in at small amounts at the time, and that was whenever my boss, she basically set up a lot of stuff, and we had our regional EMS council come in as well, and they set up the rehab areas. And I think Shanksville Fire Department was the hub for all those resources. So all the food that was being donated and everything was being transported down there. There really wasn't space up here to actually house these things. And they just went down there for a collection point. And I believe somebody was dealing with the logistics down there. I was here for 9 hours, and I know that I had to complete the rest of my 24-hour shift. And we went back, and it was a miserable night because we didn't rest after that. But past that, I know that I was very limited in what I was doing. Once my boss got there, we were just support.
How much did that affect you emotionally to go from being, rescue, and then you're there, and then you realize I'm not rescuing anybody? How does that internally affect you?
That day, I think that I don't want to say I was in shock, but I guess in a sense I was, because it was like I've never experienced anything like this in a large capacity. And I think if there was survivors, it probably would have impacted me a little bit more because of the carnage that I would have saw.
Yeah.
But I mean, still, emotionally for me not able to help anybody, that really put a toll on me. I mean, obviously I got into the services, to help people. And whenever I got here, a rescue that turned into a recovery, just wasn't my ball of wax.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, over the years, I think about it. I've talked with the family members. On the 20th anniversary, they allowed me to come up here, and me and my crew member actually rang the bells, and I got to meet some of the family members. I was in some interviews up here that I had direct contact talking about that day in the capacity of those family members, and I can honestly say I broke down just to see their faces and to see, who those people were in their eyes. I mean, I always thought, I wish I could have met them, but
yeah.
The memory lives on, and it always will.
So you do how many years as a paramedic total?
I am still a paramedic.
Still.
And it's been 32 years.
32 years as a medic, and then you became a police officer in 2011?
2011, yeah.
Did the events that occurred on 9/11 influence you in any way of becoming a police officer?
It has. It has made me more vigilant, very vigilant, because obviously if something of this stature, can happen in a small town, it can happen again. And at that point, looking at New York, the Pentagon, and just things in general that have been happening over the last 24 years since 9/11, I think in my mind that every call that you go on, could be your last. And I think every police officer, or first responder for that matter, believes that wholeheartedly. And I know that I do. And it could change in a blink of an eye. And we just have to adapt with, the world changing.
Did you get interviewed by any federal authorities, being that you were one of the first ones on scene? Any interview process that?
No, I did not. I know that the feds were coming in slowly, and at that point, I don't think that they needed to interview any of the first responders. But I know right now with us removing things, and putting them in a collection point, that probably would have been something, that they would have talked to us about, but I think in the chaos of things, I think that they had some bigger things to establish, but no, I was never interviewed by any federal agents in regards to my response or anything of that nature.
How was the community towards the first
they were
responders?
They were great. I mean, and this is something about Somerset County too. You know, the whole county came together as a whole. I know that the surrounding counties as well, whenever they requested something, services or something like that, they got it very quickly. And the vendors, we have some bigger places around here that donated food and drink and shelters and things like that. But it was great. It was, everybody came together, you know, and we dealt with the process and we adapted as we should.
I got two questions for you.
Uh-huh.
So the first one, after the incident, was there any debrief? Did you guys go through any type of stress management, critical stress management?
They offered it to us, but me being young and dumb, you know, I basically said I was fine.
Not mandatory?
You know? No, it was not mandatory. Now, obviously, as the years gone by, you know, there's a lot of high stress incidents that, you know, that they are making it mandatory now. But like I said, this is something new. That was something new.
Sure.
And they had offered it to us, and they said, if you want to attend, you can. If not, then go on your way.
And you never did?
I never did.
Okay.
No.
Next part of my question, completely unrelated.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned that you were here for about 9 hours, and then you went back to complete your 24-hour shift. So I assume you jumped into another ambulance and you're answering normal 911 calls.
Yes.
Were there people calling for bullshit reasons that, you know, the typical, I stubbed my toe, I have a headache, or were people more aware that there was this major incident that was unfolding, you know, a few miles away? And
actually, what I remember of that day, the 911 calls, they were actually legit emergencies.
Yeah.
And of course, the questions were asked to us, were you out there? What did you see? You know, and we were limited because obviously, you know, besides telling them, you know, yeah, I can confirm that it was a commercial airliner that went down and there was no survivors. But past that, I don't know any other details.
Yeah.
But it was a somber, you know, rest of my shift and disbelief. I mean,
you know, they always say, you know, cops, firemen, EMS, we go from call to call, right? Like 1 minute you could be doing CPR on a child, and the next minute you're bringing grandma to the hospital because, you know, she ran out of her, whatever, diabetes medication.
Right.
And you don't have time to process anything.
Exactly.
But, I mean, you never think about, you know, a plane crashing into the ground and then going from that and going, okay, well, let's go, you know, take the next 911 call.
That has got to be super hard. You're this scene, and then you're going, somebody stubbed their toe, somebody broke their arm or something, and it's just like,
exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just ran a major scene, you know what, and you're calling me for this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think, you know, nowadays I would assume that if there was another incident like that, they would probably just pull everybody out of service and then bring in other ambulances for mutual aid purposes and say, you know, these guys are going to be out of service for at least a day or two.
Yeah, and they did. Some of the ambulance services stayed in the area, and they, well, back then, put it this way, there was a lot more ambulance services in Somerset County, and the problem is
more
now,
back then than there is today.
Oh yeah. There was a lot of smaller volunteer services actually go out because they just couldn't keep the staffing.
Yeah.
So they got rid of their ambulances, and Somerset Ambulance right now has pretty much the whole county.
Is it private or is it run?
It's a nonprofit organization.
It's nonprofit, okay.
Yeah, so
it's is it like volunteer EMS or is it?
No, it's paid.
It's paid. Okay.
Yeah, but there's only one service that's actually a volunteer ambulance service, and I heard that they're supposed to be going under here shortly too. Once Somerset puts another ambulance.
Common across the entire country.
It is. Just the money's not there. I mean, that was another thing that kind of burned me out too. You were working all these hours for low pay, and it was like, wow, cost of living's going up. I got to do something, you know. So that's what I did. Now I was working 2 and 3 jobs, just running EMS and working a lot of hours, and they were all 24s. But there was times that I worked 48 hours.
Right.
And that takes a toll. And like I said, I was much younger then. I could stay up for 40 hours and not wink an eye. But past that, you know, I mean, now it's, as I'm getting older, it's getting a little tougher. And I mean, I enjoy working law enforcement now. You know, it's still long hours. Just like I said, I got off my midnight shifts, you know, got a couple hours of sleep this morning. And tomorrow I go back in daylight and, you know, push on for another long week.
Yeah, so now you've been a cop for about 14, 15 years?
13.
13 years.
Yep, 13 years in April. And I made detective, and I've been doing a little bit of both. I've been working crime, and I've been doing patrol. And I push through. I mean, the cases aren't too extensive, you know, but there's some high-profile cases that have come in that has taken a little bit of my time. And I've been working a lot of overtime. And it's definitely, you know, I got a great wife that, you know what, she supports me, you know, and a lot of lost time. She doesn't see me a lot, but my kids are the same. I got 2 grandkids, and I see them as much as I can. And I thought, well, when you get older, you know, you think things slow down. Well, obviously, you know what? For me,
good wishing.
It's the exact opposite. Definitely, definitely.
Do you keep in touch with the responders who responded to you on the ambulance that day, or the ambulances? Do you guys get together? You socialize? Do you talk about the incident, or you guys just avoid talking about it at all?
No, a lot of the guys that I worked with before have gotten out of EMS and moved on to other endeavors. And I see them occasionally. I mean, there's still a lot of people that's still in talking about the incident and things like that. You know, I kind of don't talk to them about it unless it's brought up in conversation. Sure. I usually do these things, you know, once a year if I'm asked. I've only been out here to the site maybe 4 times.
Oh, wow.
You know, I figure, you know, I was here that day. I know what it looked like. I mean, it still etches in the back of my mind, you know, in regards.
You don't feel that connection or that need to be here, or you just, my connection is within myself?
Yeah, pretty much. My connection is within, you know, my mind of that day. And I mean, I can look, you know, on a bright day like this, you know, and think back.
Oh, yeah, it's got to instantly remind you of that day.
Exactly. Sure. You know, and I mean, it's so surreal out here right now, the way that it looks, you know, and all I got to do is just look down a barren field, you know, and just see that day, you know, unfold. And I mean, obviously they did a great job up here with the memorial, and I know that they get a lot of visitors, which is great. Great for the county to come out here, and I think it's important for people to come out here and see what that day was like. I know my son, I brought out here when I did an interview. He was 3 years old, and there's obviously some video of him and I, you know, on an interview with him. And I mean, he, you know, was very inquisitive at that young age. You know, he wasn't too sure what was actually going on, but I'm sure that there's a lot of kids out there, you know what, that they need to come out here and see this. They need to go to New York. They need to go, you know, to the Pentagon, and they need to see these things, you know, that has made history, and they need to learn.
Were they taught? Were your kids taught that in schools here? I mean, was it part of the curriculum, or? Actually,
it's funny that the crew member that day that was with me on the ambulance, he's a history teacher at a local school. So every September, he has brought that into his curriculum.
Good.
And I remember my son saying, you know, Dad, do you have any, you know, pictures or things like that, you know, that I could take to school, you know? And I've given him that. I had a cousin that was a photographer. He passed away a few years ago, and his mom gave me all of his 9/11 things that he gave, and including some photographs and that. So I believe that it is part of the curriculum now in a lot of schools, which is important. It's part of our history, you know, and I think it should continue throughout that.
I mean, it's fortunate that, I mean, it's part of the curriculum here, but I don't think it's nationwide part of the curriculum, and that's what needs to change.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I've asked this question a lot, especially on TikTok, and a lot of, you know, young kids are using TikTok, and anytime I do a 9/11 podcast or anything along those lines, I ask it, you know, and some kids say yes, some kids say no, and then a lot say that it's very just briefly touched upon. So yeah, it's sad, and again, that's why we're doing this.
Yeah. Right.
Does Somerset PD ever have you talk to the new guys that are coming in about the incident?
No, my chief is very interactive. I mean, he knows of what I have been through because, I mean, I've known him for a lot of years, and he knows that I've worked for the ambulance. I'm the CPR and first aid instructor there, and I bring in a lot of new tools, The American Heart Association has a curriculum for police officers, to be certified, and that's what they say that they need to. I go a little bit more in depth because of what we're going to see out there. Teaching a police officer how to put gloves on or taking them off. Come on, I think that's common sense. But I'm teaching people about sucking chest wounds, gunshot wounds, cat tourniquets, severe bleeding, manage airways, things of that nature, that I think that is very important to put into those curriculums. But right now, Chief, he supports me. And if I want to talk to these new guys coming in about 9/11, I talk to him about it, because some of them, were young kids. They may remember it, but other than that,
some of them weren't even born yet.
You're exactly right. And I've been training one female officer, that she's a year younger than my daughter, and she was born in, my daughter was born in 1998, and she was still young, and she has been learning, bits and pieces of what we discuss. And she's very inquisitive about it, and she will ask the questions if she needs to. Definitely.
Did Somerset PD know that you were going to be here today talking with us?
I ran it by my chief. Whether he remembered it or not, I don't know.
Well, I want to give them a shout out if that's the case, allowing you to come out here and be here with us today.
Yeah, he's very supportive, and he's supportive in every role that I participate in. I'm very active with the drug task force. All I got to do is just say, hey, I'm going out with the team today. We're going to do a saturation patrol. We're going to hit a house, serve search warrant. He's very supportive. He says, hey, go get him. And he's been very, very supportive. In all my endeavors. Now, obviously, I do produce numbers. I'm a very proactive police officer, and I hate dope. I hate drugs, and that is what my forte is. But obviously, since I became a detective, I have to back up a little bit, and I got child victims, I got other victims, besides narcotics work. But I try to keep on top of those things and try to fight the battle that obviously, we're so far behind the 8 ball, we're never going to catch up, and we have to play by a rule book. They don't.
Yeah, well,
which sucks.
That could bring us to a whole other podcast, really, to talk about that. But I do have another question. It's a very personal question, so if you don't want to answer it, totally understand. We could edit it out if need be. Any health issues from being down here for 9 hours and walking around the burning jet fuel?
No, none. That day, I think that it was more of an open area, and we didn't breathe in the toxic fumes. That we stayed out of the smoke pretty much. And, but I don't know. March of last year, I actually rescued a woman out of a burning house. And you were saying about smoke inhalation and things like that. I suffered smoke inhalation during that time. I was treated at the hospital with oxygen treatment, and after that, when was I released? I was released that evening. I went back to work. And the following day, I worked 9 hours with the drug task force, so I kind of just jumped back into it because if I don't stay busy, I think it's going to catch up with me.
Sure.
So,
yeah, well, you're definitely a warrior for that. I'll give you the credit for it.
Can you tell us about that incident?
Sure. I was working a patrol shift, and there was multiple medical alarms going off at this residence. My friend Tyler Revac was actually working at the dispatch center, and I worked with him in EMS, and he called me on the radio and he said, hey, we're getting multiple medical alarms at this Clark Street address. And he actually said, do you want to head up there? And it was only a block and a half away from my station. And then he came back on very quickly and said, we're taking reports of a structure fire right now. So I'm like, okay. So I zoom up there, and right when I turn off on Fairview Street, which is right by our station, I saw smoke. So I confirmed that it looked like a working structure fire. So I went up to the house. I was the first car on scene, first officer on scene. And there was a gentleman standing outside, and he was the homeowner, and he had 2 small children and a dog sitting out like on a bench right outside. And I mean, the house was stoking. So I said, is everybody out of the house? He said, no, my mother is downstairs in the basement. Well, that's where the heavy fire was coming from. And I said,
From the basement.
From the basement, yeah. That's where the originating fire started. So I asked him, I said, take me down to where I need to. Went through a small breezeway, and I looked off to the right into the kitchen area, but he had the door open, and I could see flames, heavy flames down the basement steps. So he said, there's a back door. I'm like, okay. So we went down through the breezeway and went down a stairway, and he said, she should be right inside this door off to the left. So there was a door, so I kicked the door, booted it in. I went down on my hands and knees. I crawled underneath the smoke, and whenever I was making the left, I was met by a wall of fire. So I retreated. I went back out. The son was gone. He went up to take care of his small children, and there was 2 windows there. So I took my police baton and broke out the windows. Smoke started clearing. I yelled in, is anybody in there? Call out now. And I heard this faint voice saying, I'm in here. So I knew that she was still alive, so I broke more of the shards of the glass out so I could get through safely without getting tore up. And the smoke was clearing a little bit faster. So I went through the window. I got down underneath the smoke, and she was actually off to my right, sitting on the edge of the bed. She had this fixed stare on her face, I'm sure of impending doom. And I held my breath a little bit longer. I went and got her underneath of her arms, took her over to the window ledge, and at that moment, when we were both at the window, 2 of my officers got there. My sergeant, Steve Borowski, and another officer, Eric Gruce, got there, took her to safety because she was sitting on shards of glass from the window. And I always say that this is kind of embarrassing on my part, but I got stuck in the window. My duty belt, well, I got kind of stuck because it was maybe 12, 14 inches, and I got stuck. And obviously I'm a big boy, and you add duty belt, you know. So my sergeant pulled me out, and I think that's when I was trying to get out of the window, I sustained the smoke inhalation. But we got her to a hospital where she was flown to a burn center. And during that time with the burn center, I think she lived for 2 more months, and then she passed away. She was 89 years old. And she had some health-related problems, and she was on oxygen, and that's where we believe that she was, the fire started. I think she was smoking.
Well, you gave her 2 more months to live.
Yeah.
And, so great job.
Thank you. And I mean, of course, you know, the family, I mean, dealing with that trauma too of her, you know, dying in the fire, you know what, and or burning, you know, that's, I'm glad that day I was there. It's what I was trained for. That's what I want. I want to help, you know, and I need to get, you know, the other officers that I trained to, you know, on board to, you know, per se, jump into the fire, you know, and do what's right, but do it safely.
You. That's an awesome thing.
Thank you.
Has your department recognized these actions?
Yes, I was awarded the Medal of Valor through my department, through my chief, and I was also awarded the Carnegie Hero Award through a foundation out of Pittsburgh.
Absolutely well deserved.
Thank you.
Hero.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
You've had a lot of stories to tell throughout your career.
Oh, yeah. We could probably have a longer podcast if it would
we certainly could.
Far, so.
How many more years you got?
Well, in Pennsylvania, the departments are part-time. I am still considered part-time.
Really?
Yeah.
What? All of Pennsylvania?
Well, there's a lot of departments out there in Pennsylvania that are actually part-time, and I've been part-time for 13 years.
Oh, wow.
Now, there are 5 positions that are supposed to be filled, full-time positions, which I tested in November and successfully passed the sections, but still in limbo right now. But,
Chief, let's get this guy a full-time gig.
Yeah.
Right?
He's 100% behind it, you know, and filling those positions. But
So that you're not working. Is there a pension involved with being part-time, or?
not really.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
So my
you
years,
really are doing it for just the good of the community.
God bless you.
pretty much. And I mean, I pretty much got until if I retire when I'm 65, you know what? That's probably, I always make a joke. Yeah, I'll be pushing not a wheelchair, but a walker with a blue light on it, you know. So
police work is a young man's job. It is not an old man's job.
We may have to start a GoFundMe for you or something.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Well, I know. I mean, my mind always says, you know, if somebody runs, you know what, chase after them. My body, of course.
That's why you got a radio. He's running your way.
Well, listen, I always say, if you're within 20 feet, my taser's going to get you. Anything after 20 feet, see you later.
Bye.
Yeah, but that's true. You can't outrun the radio.
Nope, cannot.
Well, just hopefully somebody's in the area too.
That's true. Yeah. Well, where we're from, there's always a cop on every corner, but out here, a lot different.
But
there's plenty of deer out here. You can deputize them.
Yeah.
Hopefully, one will run right there in that direction, knock them over.
Just attach radios to them so they know.
There you go. That's right. And if it's got antlers, all better yet.
Yeah. There you go. Well, listen, it was great having you. And again, I really truly appreciate it. And shout out to all the hard work that you've done as a medic. And you know what? Were you ever a volunteer firefighter?
Yes.
I had a feeling.
He's done it all.
Yeah, I had a feeling. Just the way you were talking
swept
about
the floors. He's done everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
I had a feeling.
Ever since I was 16. Yep.
You know, it reminds me. Mark in the back. He actually pulled a few victims out of a burning building in the Rockaways a few years ago, and ended up getting.
Can I just ask you this? When you look at that picture right there, I mean, does that look like that? I mean, obviously it's that day. Is that what you were?
That was initially right after the crash happened. And then it was not a plume of black smoke that we were following. It was actually the grayish white smoke of free burning material. And that picture was, right after.
Yeah.
And you can even see the debris in that picture too. That was flying up through there because they obviously found debris. I don't even know how many miles away.
I believe Steve said it's about 10 miles away.
10 miles.
Furthest,
Yeah. So they were finding a lot of debris then, you know, and that was pretty significant, you know, right time, right place for a photograph, you know, but I mean, the earth shook.
Yeah.
Definitely, they said the earth shook, you know, when that plane, but we didn't even see the plane. We were standing outside trying to fix our broken ambulance, you know what, and then we didn't see it. And you would think that we would have saw it, but
did you hear? Did you hear the impact? Hear nothing.
No,
there's so many mountains over here and valleys,
and that's exactly where our station was in Stoy Town on Route 30. That's exactly what was. There was a ridge line right there that was preventing us from seeing because it must have approached from the northeast, you know, and then, like I said, until we actually got up over the crest of the hill. Right out by Highland Tank. I know you guys probably don't know that. Right by Lambertsville Road was when we started seeing the smoke. They just said Shanksville area.
Yeah.
You know, it's a pretty big area.
Right.
You know, so, but thank God the smoke let us in. And, but we weren't the only ones who got lost. Obviously, Shanksville, you know what, weren't sure where it was to.
It's understandable in the chaos.
Definitely there. But
it's all,
yeah. Well, I think we could wrap this up. I think this was a fantastic interview. I think again, it really brings everything together. We've been here now. It was 7 hours yesterday, and now we've been here about 7 hours today, maybe a little bit longer. We'll be here for a few more hours to go. But
we're getting deputized as National Park Rangers, right?
Yeah. I think they could use the seasonal staff.
I want a hat. I want one of those hats, Smokey Bear hats.
Yeah,
there you go.
And it's been again just a true pleasure, and thank you for coming out here. And if your chief did give you permission, again, thank you to the chief. Thank you. We'll give them a shout out. And listen, I hope you stay safe during the rest of your career.
Well, you too.
If you ever come to New York City, you let us know. We'll take care of you.
I will.
And any last thoughts you want to say to the viewers?
No, I mean, for people, you know what, that haven't been out here to the memorial site, please come out. You know what, soak up this history. I mean, it's very important. I mean, it's a great place out here, and I mean, I can't say enough about it. I mean, the national parks, did a great job. You know what, memorializing all the victims and the crew that was on that plane that day, and hopefully it lives on for lots of years, even when I'm gone.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. So with that being said, I just want to thank everybody for listening, for subscribing, for sharing, for following, giving us the likes. Please make sure to share it with your friends and family. And this will be one of many other 9/11 interviews that we're going to be doing throughout the next few weeks. So please join us next week for another episode, another 9/11 related episode, and we'll see you guys then. Be safe and talk to you soon.